Hey, all, Michael Lunsford here, Citizens for New Louisiana. And, I want to talk to you today. It's been a while. We haven't talked about libraries in a minute, but East Baton Rouge has a library tax coming up June 27th. And so there's been a little brouhaha down there in East Baton Rouge Parish about this. So much so that it made WBRZ's newscast, and I got to see a little bit of that. So I wanted to talk to you because when you watch this on the news and they tell you things, and they say it very confidently. And so, it must be true. Look, they did their research. They sound confident. But I always want to check anyway, just because that's how I am. I don't believe anybody. I believe some people, but I want to check. Trust but verify, right? So let me read you this article, and then let's go look at is what the library is telling the newspaper, the television station, is what the library is telling the media correct and accurate? And not just that, but how can you find it for yourself? This is the most fun part. You ready? Here we go. East Baton Rouge Library millage renewal faces opposition ahead of June vote. Baton Rouge, a political ad put up together by a group of East Baton Rouge Parish voters with backing from Jambalaya PAC, is urging East Baton Rouge voters to reject a library millage renewal on the June 27th ballot. The idea is they're asking for too much money for 10 years, and they should ask for less. That's the general idea. In the ad, the group cites numbers from the city parish's annual financial report, which is okay. There's numbers in there from there. There's other numbers from the library's internal numbers, so we'll show you that. It shows while the library usage is down 17%, the budget is up 42%. Okay, I can see that. Library Director Mary Stein says those figures need context. Mary, I've got great news for you. We're going to give those numbers some context so that everybody can see exactly how they can arrive at their own numbers without having to listen to any of you guys. You ready? While usage dropped after the library switched technology and purged inactive borrowers from 2015, Stein says growth since 2020 has been steady. Well, that's curious. That's curious. Why would she say there was a purge in 2015 and growth since 2020 has been steady? That's a good question. Look, we're going to look into that. You see the little things. She also says spending has grown in line with inflation. Well, unless you're an actuarial or you have an actuarial calculator, you know how to do these types of calculations, how are you going to prove this woman wrong when she says something like that? Everyone knows inflation exists and blah, blah. Oh, it must be true because she sounds smart. It must be inflation. I'm going to show you how you don't even have to look at inflation. You ready? Let's go. Oh, Lord. The millage renewal comes after voters rejected three-part tax plan for the Library Council on Aging mosquito abatement last November. The library, this is important, the library had asked for 11.1 mils at the time. The current renewal request is lower. That's in the document. I'm not saying that, I'm reading that. But some voters, even that amount isn't enough. So it's not low enough. They left the word out. It's for some voters, it's not low enough. And that's the folks who want this tax to be less and not more. Because we've just proved, or we're about to prove, that it is more. So let's look at that first. Let's look at, they asked for 11.1 mils last time, and the current request of 9.5 mils, which is imprecise. They're actually asking for 9.4 according to everything I've seen. 9.5 is less than 11.1. That's true. But did the library ask for 11.1? Let's go look. All right, here we go. Louisiana Secretary of State. That's how we find out about elections. We're going to go to elections and voting. Let's see. Get election information right there. It's like the fourth thing on the list. And then the third on the submenu right here is find results and statistics. Graphical election results here in the main body of the page. And here we go. These are the election results that we're all checking on election night. We're going to change the date to November, which is when the tax failed. We're going to go by parish. We're going to go look at East Baton Rouge Parish. View results. Very first item here. Look at that. 11.1 mils. That's got to be it. Let's click and see. Not much information here, but you click full and you get the full wall of text. A couple things I want to point out. The tax asked for 11.1 mils. That is true, but the library asked for 8.3. So is 8.3, is that more or less than 9.4? Or maybe the better question is 9.4 the current thing they're asking for? Is that more or less than 8.3? I mean, it's simple math works, right? It's more. They're asking for more than they did last time. So we've already debunked the very first thing that I said we could debunk. It's so easy. You just go right here and there it is, right there on the page for you to see. And you don't have to trust anybody. You can go look it up yourself. Let's look at the next item. She says active cardholders, steady growth since 2020. Okay, let's go find that. That is on the East Baton Rouge Parish Library website. And because there's a millage on the thing, they have a millage proposal here. Now, I will tell you this. They always hide the best stuff. Oh, let me go back. They always hide the best stuff at the bottom. So here's the stuff. Statistical and usage reports. You ready for this? All right, they're going to take us down here, year-to-date indicators. Let's go look at those. So here's the year-to-date indicators. What does she say? They purged inactive borrowers. I want you to pay attention to that word borrowers. Pay attention to the word borrowers. Listen to that. In 2015. So let's look. Do we have borrowers? We do not. We have cardholders. Okay. Well, let's be reasonable. But that's probably the metric she's talking about. So in 2015 there was a purge, or 2016, and so they lost 80,000 cardholders. And then it continued to drop to 2020, which was 273. It looks like it went up a little bit, but it's still less than it was back then. And that's why I think she started in 2020, because she wants to show steady growth. Here we go. 21, it went up. 22, it went up. 23, it went up a little bit. 24, it dropped again. 27,000 cardholders dropped. So it has not been steady growth. And then they lost another 1,000 in 2025. So 28,000 have fallen off in the last 2 years, but she told the television station steady growth. So something, again, we're going to be precise here because I can't stand imprecise language. What was the word she used again? Borrowers. Well, is a borrower a cardholder? Let's go look a little further. Because they always hide stuff. What did I tell you? At the end. Here we go. This is the wall of text that no one reads. Well, yeah. Almost no one. Well, let's go find out what a borrower is. All right, here we go. Look at this right in the middle. The patron count for 2025 totaled 309,803. That's the number from up there. Okay, or 80% of the parish population. Look at that. That's a lot of people. Except the proviso. Almost 40% of these patrons used their library card last year. Let me translate that. Over 60% of the card holders don't ever go to the library. Oh, that's not entirely true. We have things that they can do that they don't need a library card for. We'll track it. Why? That's not my problem. You're not tracking what's being used. If you have no metrics to prove that the library is valuable, why would you offer something you can't track? But at any rate, you're going to hear that excuse. But I'm telling you, according to their own documents, not my opinion, according to their own documents, over 60% of their card holders don't even show up to use the library system. So when she says that the growth has been steady, blah, blah, they're just giving you all the great reasons why you should support the library and none of the reasons why you should look closer. We're looking closer. I'm showing you how to get this documents and these data for yourself. Because this is how you find out what you should be doing on Election Day on June 27th, is by figuring out who's lying to you. You ready? Last item. Spending increased because of inflation. Now, we're not going to do actuarial calculation. Fear not. But what we are going to do is I'm going to show you where you can get the document and information for yourself, and then you can figure out is that accurate. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to show that, they're going to say stuff like that to trick you into chasing the wrong wild goose. Let's look. So here we go. We're going to Baton Rouge website, brla.gov, right here under departments. If you scroll ever so slightly, you'll find finance way here at the bottom where all the best stuff is. We want the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or they change the name every now and again. Now it's called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. We'll click on that. And so the last one available is 2024. Now I went and checked on this. So the last 2024 came out in August of 2025. So it's not August yet in 2026. So we're going to get the 2025 report in August in 2 months. So we're not going to be able to see 2025 yet. But we're going to look at 2024. So let's go see. And I'm going to show you where they hide the documents, or where they hide the information in the document. All right, here we are. This is the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And we're going to just Command F. And we're going to search for library, because it's like on page 300 or something along weird like that. We're going to go, I think it's around 20. We're going to just skip ahead. And I want to show you one thing. So you'll see this page. You'll think this is the page. This is not the page. You see this assets over here? We don't care about that, because they're going to count all kinds of stuff that they own as assets, and $165 million is what they control. Fine. We care about revenue and expense. Revenue and expense. That's what we care about. So this is for 2024. They brought in $59 million in tax revenue, business taxes. They call it business taxes, but the ad valorem taxes, they charge you, property tax. So that is the ad valorem tax that comes in to support the library. It's the only tax they have. I also want to point this out. This is very interesting. $6 million on investment earnings. That's interest on their fund balance. So when you're saying, well, why do they have such a high fund? They have $6 million in interest that they're paid by the bank to have a $121 million fund balance. I'll show you that too. So their total revenue is $65 million. If we scroll down here, total expenditures $47 million. Now this is where it gets a little weird. $17 million was called excess of revenues. And this is deceptive. This is not it's an accurate number, but for purposes of what we're doing here, they transferred $18 million out of the fund, and they're doing like maintenance. Now, we're going to have to do public records requests to find out what they spent $18 million in maintenance on. So that's going to take too long for the purposes of this. But the fact of the matter is $18 million in capital projects for the library, and they didn't even build a library. So $18 million for what? We don't know. So the fund balance, even with all of that, their fund balance is still $121 million. Now the fund balance is what I refer to as a surplus. They'll tell you things like, oh, we plan to spend the money. Don't worry about that. Don't look at that number. That's not a real number. That's what's in the bank, $121 million. In fact, if it's not a real number, why did you get $6 million in interest payments from it? All right, so I showed you how to do that for 1. Now, if you want to go back and pull it for 10, you'll get to what I built for you just to be nice, a spreadsheet. Let's go look at it. Here we go. Spreadsheet that I put together. So I went and did all of these. So that was 2024. You see there's the $59 million in tax revenue. Here's the total revenue. Here's the balance ending. And they spent last year $193,000 more than they took in. But what I want to show you, and the reason I did this spreadsheet was because this is their annual surplus. If it's got brackets around it, it means it was a deficit. So we're going to highlight 10 years. So you see, count 10 years. They took in $48 million right here, more than they needed to operate. The average every year is almost $5 million a year that they collected over and above what they needed to operate. And that's before we even look to see if the capital projects were reasonable for a library system. And we'll say, okay, we'll give them that. We'll give them the $18 million last year for capital projects. But the point is, they're still, even with all that, they're still over collecting $50 million. So when they come to you and say, well, give us the 9.4 mils instead of the 8.3, I believe the 8.3 is probably a much more reasonable number that they asked for last time. So when you lose a millage in an election that people say no, why would you come back and ask for more? Generally, you would come back and ask for less. I think you come back and maybe ask for the same and you separate it from the mosquito and other stuff and just the library. I get that. But the point that we're making here is the information that that Ms. Stein says we need context. Here's your context. I didn't just show you the context. I showed you how you can go get it yourself. And look, we're going to be doing more of these. So pay attention, read these documents, read your own go find it. And so when you're having a conversation with folks about this and they start pulling out actuarial stuff, you can say, but why did they collect $50 million more than they needed? That's a lot easier to figure out, and that's a lot easier to talk about. So that's it. That's what we have for you today. Keep reading those documents. We'll be back soon with more. Be good.